Bonjour et bienvenue, James Talk Sport. Today is 2 days since Tadej Pogacar won the Tour de France and Wout van Aert won on the Champs-Elysees to complete a crazy set. And it was a fantastic race, minus the battle for yellow, which was pretty much sewn up from the first TT. It was a fantastic race. A lot of drama, a lot of stories that came up. And I've got to try now and pick five of my top five moments. So I'll dive right into my fifth top moment of the 2021 Tour de France, and that is the rise of Jonas Vingegaard. Coming into the Tour, he was obviously there solely to back Primoz Roglic, and he did that to a fault, to a T, sorry, until Roglic had to um, Roglic lost time just before the Alps, and then he could do what he wants. If he wanted to drop back and then ride for stages, he could, but he chose to stay and try and podium, maybe win a stage of the Tour. And yeah, he didn't win a stage, but what a ride he did. Um, he had a fantastic Alps, he did, where he did not look under pressure. He was the only GC rider to drop Tadej Pogacar at 1-1-2. And then in the Pyrenees, he could stay with and work with Pogacar. And then two very, very good TTs that meant he finished in second place overall. So what can he do in the future? That remains to be seen, but for now, he is fifth on my top five moments of the Tour. Fourth is the reborn rise of Ben O'Connor. Everyone will remember the 2018 Giro. He was on for a top 10 in, I believe, his debut Grand Tour, only to crash on the Barra stage, and all hope kind of, went out the window. Since then, in 2019, he really struggled for form, and injuries and other injuries. 2020, he bounced back with a fantastic win, in fact, a fantastic Giro as a whole, including the stage win. And then he finally got a contract for 2021, and it was at Agir des Citron. And boy, hasn't he repaid them. He has been fantastic all season, brilliant at the Dauphiné, and then came into the Tour. Lost time in that first week. I mean, it was crash central and TT, but boy, did he bounce back on the mountain to Teen. Got in the breakaway with Quintana, Woods, and Higuita, and soloed and took not only a fantastic win, but then got into second place overall. Struggled up Ventoux. I mean, he said himself he hates the mountain, so dropped down, but then bounced back superbly in the Pyrenees and has finished in a fantastic fourth place. What can he go on to do in the future? Can he go on to podium or even win a Grand Tour? Remains to be seen, but a super aggressive rider who's good at TTs and was solid at TTs and can clearly climb with the best as well on his day. You have to go back to 1979 to find a rider that has won a mountain stage, an individual time trial, and a sprint. And that man was the Badger himself, Bernard Hinault. And Wout van Aert has just equalled that. Again, like Jonas Vingegaard, he was, there for the service of Primoz Roglic, and then they had to suddenly change their plans. And boy, did it work. Sepkus also took a win. But Wout van Aert's three stages on Ventoux, the time trial, and Champs-Elysees, as well as being a constant presence at the front, whether it be in the breakaway with Van der Poel on stage 7, whether it be in the Pyrenees, working for Kussel Vindegal. He was a constant presence at the front, showing what he can do in all types of terrain. Where does he go from here? Personally, I want to see him stay how he is, but give a little bit more focus back to the Cobble Classics so he can have a truly epic battle with Van der Poel and Casper Asgreen. But particularly Van der Poel with that rivalry that they've had for the last, well, all their life really. However, that's what I want, but I expect him to eventually, maybe even next year, begin to go for GC. Jumbo-Visma have a lot to think about for next year with the overall of Grand Tours. Number 2, so my second top moment of the Tour de France is this man. Yes, he was only there for the first week, but what carnage he caused in the first week. Yeah, day 1, yeah, it didn't go quite his way with Alaphilippe taking the stage in yellow, but stage 2 for me was one of the rides of the Tour. He went out to get yellow. Nothing else would do. And to attack full pelt on the first time up the Mur de Bretagne is one thing. I was confused, as a lot of people were, to get bonus seconds, but then on the final ascent to the top, he followed all the moves. He was the first to follow Quintana. He was the first to follow Colbrelli. But then he unleashed himself, and no one could live with him. Took a emotional stage win and took yellow jersey for Raymond Poulador. Similarly to Wout van Aert, we don't quite know the extent of this man's talents. He seems to be very much focused on what he loves and what he knows in terms of classics and stage wins. Probably the green jersey. We haven't seen what he can do over the mountains, but I imagine he would be able to do that in the terms of getting breakaways and getting sprint points. We're in a fantastic era, and Van Aert and Van der Poel are almost front and center of this era, and it's fantastic to see. So, as you'd probably expect, being a Brit, my top moment of the 2021 Tour de France is this man, the Manx Missile, being back to his best. Yep, it's sad and a shame that he didn't break the record, but to have him back racing at the Tour de France was great, let alone taking 4 stage wins in the green jersey. Another one of those where it's a life lesson to us all in how not to give up, how to take the knocks, or as Rocky would say, it's not how hard you get hit, it's how hard you get back up again, or something to that effect. He won, great, but to equal the record of Eddie Merckx after 5 years of injury, illness, lack of confidence, it was fantastic. And to stand there on the podium in Paris with his three of his children, and it was great for him. Will we get another year of Cav? I hope so. I hope Lefebvre backs him for another year, and then it depends about the Remco situation, whether the sponsors put pressure on him to do the Tour or not. Personally, I think Remco should do the Giro and Vuelta next season, but that's for a different video. For Cav, all he'll be glad to do is glad to be back and hope that maybe next year he can go.
Hi James, you've asked me for my top 5 moments from this year's tour. First one is this one. Big moment, big crash. Fans, keep off the road. Simple as that. You can cheer, you can be there, just don't do that. Second moment, this one. Cav, stage 4, making that comeback, amazing. All the emotion. No one thought that this was going to happen, really. Proved us all wrong. Brilliant. Third moment would be this one. Pogacar, stage 8, blowing everything apart. You know, as far as I'm concerned, it was all sealed up, all wrapped up by then. Almost untouchable. Next moment would be this one. Wout van Aert on Von 2. Not just this stage, you know, the 3 completely different stages, TT, sprint, and this stage. But this one, twice up Von 2. Incredible. Yeah. And finally, has to be this one. Cavendish taking the record. You know, we never expected him to be at the Tour, so let alone beating that record in the green jersey. Real shame about not winning in Paris, but he can be a happy man.
So there we have my top 5 moments. A few honourable mention would be Dylan Teuns' win, and you know, obviously Pogacar's fantastic ride. Jaimar Mas and Jaimar Bilbao for not really showing much, but being in the top 6 and top 10 respectively, similar to Jaimar Zubeldia. Bonamore for being a constant presence in the breakaway, and Brent Van Moor as well for his almost brilliant breakaway victory. So thank you very much for watching. I will be back again very shortly for my top 5 WTF moments of this year's tour, and then I'll be back to either preview or review the Olympic time trials and road races for the men and for the women. Thank you, and see you next time on James Talk Sport.